Well, hello and welcome to the Sunset Drive here at Djuma Private Game Reserve. You're on drive with myself, Stefan, and VM on camera, and it's Jamie and Andrew on the other vehicle this afternoon. I had to think quite carefully over there. I had a bit of exercise brain. VM decided for his birthday that he was going to go for a run today, so we've turned over a new leaf for VM today. All very proud of him. What we were on was, well, before I start that, I actually just want to tell you a little bit about the weather so far. It's been a fantastic day. We've got a little bit of a breeze coming up at the moment. Just basically picked up from this afternoon. The temperature topped out at 25 degrees centigrade, which is about 77 degrees Fahrenheit. And I have some good news before we go to what we've got to show you today. Quarantine was seen near Londolozi Camp, and that comes from Inga. So thank you very much, Inga. It's always good to hear about quarantine. Keep that feedback coming. It'd be lovely to follow. If he stays in the Sabi Sands, fantastic. But what we have to show you is a vervet monkey troop, which is actually just left the log. We've been sitting here for 15 minutes already, and as I did the intro, they've run away. So I'm quickly going to go around the corner and see if I can pick them up on top of the termite mound. We should be able to. They're not scared of us or anything. They probably just got a little bit upset because I was talking about quarantine before I talked about them. For those new to the show, welcome. And you are welcome to send through any questions that you may have to the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. And if you don't feel like using Twitter, you can email your questions to questions@wildearth.tv, and we'll try and get to as many as we can, or get through as many as we can. Now they've gone back to their stump over there. I'm going to try and go forward again around the corner. You know, these monkeys, they definitely are pranksters, and they know we're trying to film them. And every time we point the big scary lens at them, they run away. Not too much of a problem. We're not doing anything to them to cause them any harm. It's literally just them being full of beans like they are apt to do. There we go. Have a look at that. This is a social group of vervet monkeys. They live in this area. Now, by this area, I mean area roughly 40 hectares in size. That's what the average troop in this area inhabits. So 40 hectares is about 2 football fields. Well, 1 hectare is a football field, 2 football fields times by 40. That's how big this troop will forage in. They usually have 2 activity periods today. They have one in the early morning and they have one in the mid-afternoon. Now, I'm fully expecting them to start foraging now. It's just been quite warm this afternoon, and that's why they're just sitting in the shade still. Have a look at that baby scratching his face there with mom. Now, vervet monkeys are neither an arboreal monkey species, like a spider monkey for instance, or a terrestrial monkey species like a baboon, gorilla, or patas monkey would be. These guys sort of are fringe specialists and found almost totally in riverine basins. So we've got a drainage line just behind them, and this is typical habitat for them, where they occur close to acacia trees. During the dry season, acacia gum forms a large part of their diet. All other times of the year, they're quite omnivorous, and will utilize many different food sources, from insects, small mammals, lizards, snakes even, fruit, berries and seeds, even grass, buds and leaves. So omnivorous. Have a look at that little baby over there. I'll look at what mom's doing. That's called allo grooming or social grooming. Social grooming is a very, very important part in primate social orders. It just re-establishes bonds. It proves kinship. Very similar to us in that respect. We also like to get hugs and kisses and have our hair brushed and whatever else. I don't have much hair, so that hasn't happened to me in many years. I'll have a look at that. That is very cute. In some parts of Africa, these monkeys are called green monkeys because their coats have a greenish tinge on the longish hairs when they're seen like this. Not now, but definitely you can imagine that there's a greenish tinge there. What's quite interesting about these monkeys' social order is that females are, they have a predetermined hierarchy. In other words, a mother has a predetermined hierarchy in the troop. She can't change it, and her babies inherit that hierarchy from her. Males, they actually migrate, and they can actually change, bless you, they can actually change their social standing, usually through fighting and forming bonds with other males or higher ranking males in different societies. So they can change their social standing. Unfortunately for the moms in a troop, they can't, but they all bond together to help bring up young and to defend the territory. The territories are actually mostly defended by the females, even against other rival males. So they bond together, they stick together quite nicely, warding off almost anything from a monkey perspective. Now this little youngster, he doesn't feel that he's in any danger with mom around. Out here, leopard are one of the primary predators of monkeys on the ground, but we also have eagles. The crowned eagle and the martial eagle will take monkeys when they are able to. That's quite a big troop, this. They can average anywhere between 8 monkeys and 40 monkeys, with anywhere from 1 to about 8 males, big males in the troop. This particular troop, I've only seen 1 big male, and I think there's around about 8 or 9 monkeys in this troop. So I suppose a fairly small troop of monkeys, come to think about it. And now we can't see any monkeys anymore. Not too much of a problem. We're going to carry on going. We are going to try and see if we can follow up on that cheetah that you saw from this morning. Myself and VM want to see one, so we've swapped out with Jamie. Hopefully our luck holds true and the cheetahs cross back into Juma this afternoon. Now cheetah, unlike leopard, do move during the middle of the day. Not during the hottest part of the day, of course, but definitely during this time of the day they will move. And that's what we're counting on. As a note, we were here this morning to follow up on some vulture activity that we saw, and all the vultures have moved on, which means that all the meat that they were eating is gone as well. So a missed opportunity to follow up on a kill. Even though we did walk around here for a long time, yesterday and today we've walked around over here, didn't see a thing. So often happens. That's a virtual starling that was just running around on the floor, moved out of our way. Question for the afternoon comes from Annie in Durban. Hello Annie. And you've asked, does the alpha male, is that the only male or the only monkey that mates with the females in the troop? And the answer to that question is yes, although the dominant male position can change quite suddenly, and it does change quite often. So while the adult male monkey will be the one who takes advantage of mating opportunities when they do present themselves, the dominant position can swap out, especially in a big troop. So let's say we've got 40 monkeys in a troop and 8 males. They will definitely swap out quite often and with quite violent fights. And then any female that comes into estrus after that, the dominant male will take. Now this doesn't mean that males don't take chances with females on the periphery, but it makes a male who isn't dominant less attractive for the female. So she will ward him off. That usually elicits a response from the dominant male, and then he takes advantage of a female coming into estrus and then accompanies her until he's sure the job has been done. So thanks for that question, Annie. It's not often we get to see vervet monkeys or take the time to look at them. In summertime, when they're resting during the heat of the day, the foliage is way too thick to see them, and in wintertime they're usually foraging through the trees by the time we come out on game drive, making it quite difficult to actually see them or to spend enough time with them, any meaningful time with them. You'll notice that it seems to have been cleared on sides. Not by chance. We do this in this area to give this particular place a fire break. Now, fires in the Kruger National Park, especially around this time of the year, can be catastrophic. Free-ranging fires, as they're supposed to be in nature, really only have a place in large ecosystems like the Kruger National Park. But as soon as they start getting into slightly smaller game reserves like the Sabi Sands, even though the Sabi Sands is, let me get it here now, Sabi 1,000 hectares, and even in the Sabi Sands, made up of a bunch of different properties.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sunset Safari. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie, and I will be taking you around this afternoon. And I've got Andrew, the aardvark, on camera with me. So, been a bit of a strange afternoon after the chilly start this morning, and it was very, very cold. It has warmed up substantially, so much so that Andrew, VM, and Gendre all went for a bit of a swim before we set off on this afternoon's drive. I personally think they're completely nuts. I would not be jumping in that water in mid-July, which is one of our coldest months here. But they seem to think it was sensible, and they tell me that they feel very refreshed afterwards. So, after a very interesting morning this morning, finding the Matimba male, hairy belly, and also seeing that cheetah, however briefly, I've decided that this afternoon is time to be brave, and it's time to head into new territory for me. So I'm now in Arathusa. I'm going to try and find out what is happening with the reported problem with a hippo at the Arathusa Dam that was picked up by one of our zoomies. And then I'm going to check around for Shadow and Sindile just to see what's happening there. And hopefully I can get hold of some of the Arathusa guides and they can give me some updates from this side of the world. But guys, as some of you may or may not know, I am new to this area, so if you see me checking my phone, I'm not ignoring you or being rude. I'm just checking up on the map to see exactly where I am, just to make sure that I don't stray outside of where I'm meant to be. There's a very high possibility of potentially getting lost, but that is half the fun. So let's go and see what we can find. While I was making my way through into Arathusa, I did pick up on what looked like a very big set of male leopard tracks. Unfortunately, they'd been driven over for quite a long distance, and I couldn't really follow up as to which way they went off into the block. And given that I don't know the area and the movements of the leopards too well, I'm going to leave that for now and just double check on the dam, but then I will be back to have a look at those tracks at a later stage. road. I can starting to see pictures of the or vision of the lodge just up ahead of me. So I must be on the right track, or at least making my way to the dam. We're driving along. I've got an interesting question from Julia. Hi Julia, and welcome to the Sunset Safari, and thank you very much for your question. So Julia's question is, do animals go into rigor in the same way that human beings do? And the answer to that is yes, they definitely do. The reason that Julia asked that question was she picked up on the fact that at the buffalo kill that was made by the Nkuhumas a couple of days ago, the carcass actually looked very floppy and movable. And that's just mainly due to the fact that the lions have eaten away a lot of the tendons, they've pulled apart some of the joints, so it makes it look a little bit floppier than it would if it had been left. Just bear with me a second, I'm just going to figure out how not to drive into the lodge. Something I would prefer to avoid doing. I'm going to go with that potentially being the wrong way to go. So we will travel along this way and figure it out from there. Just while I've got these impala to my right, nice little breeding herd. And it's nice to see that we're starting to see the females and the males mixing together again. Still only one big male that I can see in this particular breeding herd, so still with a bit of remnants from the mating season or the rut that happened about 2 to 1 month ago. So the hormones are still there and the herds are still remaining with a lot of bachelor groups. But they are incredibly beautiful animals and often, very often overlooked. Still got a latecomer coming. So I was chatting to Andrew on our way here, and we were just talking about their amazing coloration and how nothing in this area does anything for fun. Every animal is adapted to a specific purpose. So that beautiful two-tone fur color that they have with the dark on top and the light underneath, that's actually a method of counter shading, and it's to help them to camouflage a little bit better from the various predators that see in black and white. So it just makes it, with the sun highlighting the darker color on top and not quite reaching necessarily the lighter color below, it helps them to appear more two-dimensional rather than a three-dimensional animal. Now obviously for us it's not that clear because we see very well in color, but for predators that see in black and white, and particularly in the middle of the day with the sun right at its peak, it does help just to give them that little bit extra advantage. And it's always interesting to look at the various reasons behind an animal's coloring or why it has particular anatomical features. For example, the black dots, which you can see on, you're going to struggle a little bit potentially to see with these guys in the grass, but impala have black patches of fur on the back of their back legs, and within that is a little gland that secretes pheromones into the air. And nobody really knows exactly why they do this. The strongest theory is that when they are running away from a predator, they release that to make it a little bit easier for them all to follow and stay together in a group, so that they don't single each other out or single themselves out and make it easier for a predator to catch them. Okay, so they are disappearing off into the distance. And I think we should too. I'm going to see if I can loop my way around this dam and find out what's going on with that hippo. while I'm looping around and finding a road, Donna would like to know what happened to our cheetah from this morning. Hello Donna, welcome to the Sunset Drive. So the cheetah did not emerge in the time that I stayed in the area. I stayed for as long as possible, just in the sort of vain hope that maybe he'd start crossing towards our boundaries. And I do know that Steph is thinking about going back just to have a look and see what's happened with him. But while I was there, he stayed lying down next to the vehicles, and eventually I had to move so that other game drive vehicles could make their way into that sighting and have a look at him. From what I heard as I left, he was still very much flat cat, lying down, hidden behind some of the grass. But you never know. Hopefully Steph might pick up that he is potentially making his way back towards the dam. I would not say certain, but I suspect that it's the same cheetah that I might make his way back there for a late afternoon drink. You never know. And I'm seeing a lot of construction vehicles around the area, so potentially there might be a little bit of noise when we get to the dam, just so that they can build and renovate while they're continuing our chat about the impala and their coloration and the predators seeing in black and white. Mavis has sent through a very interesting question about whether or not there are any animals that do actually see in color in the same way that we do. The answer is yes, and it is mainly the primate family. They do see in color, which is why you often see the very bright backsides of the certain sexually mature or ready for mating in estrus females and males that we do see. So primates, very similar to us, do have color vision. And then birds as well. And birds makes sense. They've got those very, very brightly colored feathers, which only makes sense if you consider them in terms of the other birds being able to see those bright colors. So those are the sort of two main animal groups that I can think of at the moment that do have very, very good color vision. And then there are also insects that see in a whole different spectrum. So a lot of flowers that when seen in ultraviolet light actually show the insect exactly where to go into the center of the flower so that they can be pollinated by the various insects. So yes, there are a couple of animals with color vision, but most of the big mammals and the prey species, they don't see very much, and mainly in gray or black and white. This is a very interesting experience for me, and it's quite fun to drive along roads that you've never been on before, because you start picking up certain areas that you know you're going to go and look for certain types of animals in. So for example, the nice big drainage lines with the big trees, I know now that if I see leopard tracks in the area or on the roads, those will be the sort of places that I'll be checking first. While I find my way into the dam, I'm actually going to pass you back to Steph. I think I found the right road, but I'm just going to go and poke my nose in and make sure that I'm on the right track. So in the meantime, I will send you back to Steph and I will see you a little bit later.
Welcome back to us. Myself and VM are still making our way through to the area where you last saw the cheetah this morning with Jamie. And I hear that you've been talking about animals being seen in color versus seeing in black and white, and the advantages of both, having a look at an impala herd. And we were going to add to that by showing you a little steenbuck, but the steenbuck's decided to play a little bit of hide and go seek with us and has lain down in the grass over there. Very camouflaged. Now you won't believe, but that little antelope is there. What we can show you though, maybe, yes, let's see how the zoom works. It's like all the way down there, a million miles away, is a zebra standing on the road. I've just seen it with my binoculars. This is a cut line, one of our boundaries. Just to give you an idea of this super zoom capability that we have on this new camera of ours. You may have noticed a little jump in the picture as the zoom kicks in. Don't worry, that's all normal. It's not a breakup in the transmission or anything like that. You should notice a similar thing when VM decides to brake. But let's carry on looking at the zebra. Looks like they're just standing in the road over there. I just have my binoculars on it. Not doing too much, not worried about too much. Can't see anything else on this road. But we are gradually increasing in elevation, almost to the highest point on Jumo when we finally finish. And it's quite hazy today. We've figured out that there's a fire. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, VM. Do you think it will be possible?
Try.
So what we're going to try and show you is there's a fire in the Kruger National Park. And you'll notice it looks like clouds, but with a slight browny tinge to them. That's where the fire is, and it's starting to diffuse the sunlight and giving everything this sort of yellowy feel to it, this buttery yellow feel to it. And that's because of all the flames and fires in the Kruger. I've watched the fire approach for 2 weeks before it got to us. Can you believe it? That's how big the Kruger National Park is, and also how long these fires can burn for. But for all of us out there, it's very rare that we actually find animals that are burnt, so it's not catastrophic. You don't have to worry too much about animals that are burning. Most animals know how to get out of the way, instinctively just go round fires, and if not around them, behind the bark of trees, into holes in trees, into holes under the ground, between rocks. And I've even seen snakes at the top of trees escape the worst of the ravages of a fire. So it doesn't have the devastating effect that you all think about. But this season is the fire season at the moment. I think let's carry on going. I've got VM chomping at the bit over here. He really wants to see a cheetah on his birthday. It's his birthday wish today. And it would be rude not to oblige, hey VM? Genevieve in New York has asked us an interesting question. Hello Genevieve. They're saying with the grass being so dry and so brittle at the moment, will animals change their hunting behavior? Will they change the way that they stalk? And that's a good question, Genevieve. I think that the open nature of the bush lends itself to animals starting to stalk from a much further way away. And allow animals the opportunity to start running from further away rather than stalking right up. Just busy having a careful look over here. This is where the cheetah was lost this morning. Just looking for some tracks coming in. So I think if anything, Genevieve, what it does is that it allows for a greater chance that the animal gets seen, and therefore the animals start their approach or their more aggressive approach a bit earlier. So they'll start running from a bit earlier, they'll start pouncing from a bit earlier, rather than using every bit of cover that they can to get as close as they can to the animals. Just taking my time to carefully scan every last little bit that I can. So while myself and VM keep an eye out over here and basically painstakingly comb this road for any sign of this cheetah, if we can possibly pick him up, Jamie has got something quite exciting to show you, and as soon as we have got something to show you back, we'll see you again. Bye.
Welcome back, guys, and as you can see that while you were discussing the potential of a fire in the area, I have made my way to the Arathusa Dam. Finally found a way in here, and I chose a good position as well to come in, because the first thing I saw was this wonderful raft of fairly lazy looking hippos. Not uncommon to see hippos out in the winter sun at this time of year. The sun is not too strong and it's not too hot, so they do enjoy just a little bit of time to bask in the sun. And although they look large and potentially very clumsy, these animals are actually incredibly fast, so they can move. They can run at speeds much faster than even potentially the fastest human being, so we definitely can't outrun them. And they're also incredibly agile. Walking along some of the riverbeds in the area I used to work at, it always astounded me to see hippo tracks coming out of some of the steepest sections of the river right up the bank and up through the sand. So they are very agile. They can actually turn much faster than you would expect them to be able to with all of that bulk. So definitely not a clumsy animal. And even in the water, they can move very rapidly. As I'm sure that most of you know, hippos can't actually swim, which is unusual in the animal kingdom, but they are not good swimmers. They cannot keep themselves floating. They have to either stand on the bottom or walk along the bottom. And for little calves that their feet aren't long enough or their legs aren't long enough for them to stand, they'll often rest on their mother's bodies. We do have a very sweet little calf tucked away there between the adults. Can also be very, very difficult to tell the difference between male and female hippos. Of course, the biggest one with a very solid, stocky head is usually the largest and most dominant bull in the area. But for younger males and for older females, it can be very difficult. And that's largely because it is not all that apparent at first glance. And hippos' testicles, in the same way as elephants and rhinos, are actually internal. So they sit up just close to their kidneys, obviously this group has decided, or at least some of these individuals have decided, it's a little bit hot sitting out in the sun like that. Now, I do know that there was a report of a hippo that looked potentially sick or even dead, was something that I read that was seen on the Arathusa cam. But by the looks of things, all of these hippo are perfectly healthy. They are simply dozing. And they are nocturnal animals, so this is essentially what they are meant to be spending their day doing, either sleeping or wallowing about in the river, in the dam. And you can also see, if we go back to the hippos that are lying on the bank, you also see that there are lots of oxpeckers on the backs of these hippos. So hippo can actually carry ticks, unlike elephants whose skin is usually too thick for any kind of external parasite. But those little birds that you're seeing on the top there are oxpeckers, and they're looking to grab all of the little ticks and other parasites that usually sit under the hippo's tail. So at this distance, it's a little bit difficult to see, but these hippos will be secreting what is a very red, quite oily substance that they use as skin protection. And I know that scientists are looking very closely into this substance to engineer different types of sunblock and to look at different ways of protecting skin against the effects of the UV sun rays. It's absolutely fascinating, and there are many, many examples in nature that scientists are looking to imitate and copy in a way that is more natural and potentially better for us. But the substance that they secrete can look very, very red, almost like the hippo is sweating blood. And indeed, before people really understood what that substance was, they did believe that hippos actually sweated out blood. And they do have very sensitive skin, which is why they spend the majority of their time during the day in water. So I have a question from Ginny about whether or not hippos have a mating season. Ginny, as far as I know, they don't. I think that there will be a peak season, which will probably be during the wet season, where there's a lot more water and more space for the mothers to be safe. But not as far as I know. I think that baby hippos can be born at any time of the year. And I have seen very young babies in summer and in winter. So they don't have a specific season, but with a lot of animals that don't have a specific breeding season, you'll probably find that there is a peak to their breeding. Now these babies, the one is almost a sub-adult, the one that is lying in front of its mother still, and the little one that was up and walking around is not newborn. I would put it at probably maybe 6 or 7 months, but I'm not entirely sure. But it looks to me it's definitely not a new baby. It has been around for a while. And female hippos are unbelievably protective over their babies, which of course you can say for almost any animal, but they will defend it very aggressively. And often that is what's given this hippo the reputation, and I suppose factually correct, that it is the animal, apart from the mosquito, that kills the most people in Africa. And very, very often, I would say the majority of those cases would be a situation where a human has either stepped between a hippo and water, or between a mother and her calf, or in some way left the mother feeling threatened and that the life of her baby is threatened. And of course, human beings in many parts of Africa still rely very much on the river systems, either for washing or for drinking water. So it's not that these animals are more unduly aggressive than any other animal, it's just simply that human beings often come into contact with them. Even now, with all of the fenced reserves that we have, it is almost impossible to fence a river section of a reserve. So the hippos can and do often come and go as they please. Not sure what that hippo's doing. Might be just scratching the edge of his nose there. So in terms of walking experiences, I have had some very interesting encounters with hippos. It's fascinating to see how they respond in different ways. A hippo in water is probably one of the least threatening animals out there, although of course you never want to completely bank on that being a rule. But you can actually walk up very close to the water's edge and the hippo will not leave its sanctuary. They feel the most secure when they are submerged in water and they know that they can hide underneath it. So in terms of walking, you can walk fairly safely up to a dam. That of course also depends on the level of habituation the hippos have and their level of exposure to humans. But then walking around riverbeds can also be very, very dangerous, especially on overcast and cool days, or even during winter where the weather is unseasonably cool. The hippos very often spend their time basking out in strange, unexpected places, and their natural instinct is to run almost instantly into the water. So you really, really don't want to be standing between a hippo and its sanctuary. One of my most interesting encounters with hippos on foot, just while I'm thinking about the subject, was I was actually not walking in as the lead guide. I was walking as the lead guide's backup because we had quite a big group. And the area that we were walking in, it was midsummer, but it was an overcast day. So we potentially should have expected it more than perhaps we did. But we were probably a good 2 or 3 kilometers from water and walking at around 10 o'clock in the morning. So theoretically, all of the hippos should have been back towards their sanctuary. And we were walking through quite a large drainage line trying to cross to the other side. And as we popped out over the edge, we were face to face with quite a large bull hippo. And he reacted very aggressively and he charged us. And my most vivid memory was desperately trying to keep at least 4 people from turning around and running. And I'm sure many of you know the worst thing you can do in that kind of situation is to run, because then you trigger that instinct within the animal to chase. And Andrew's just spotted a little antelope on the far side. I just want to see. It is a little bushbuck. I think that's the first little bushbuck I have seen while I've been in this area. Lovely little antelope to see. It's part of the spiral horned antelope family, so grouped together with the Inyala and the Kudu, and it is the smallest member of that little family. for that, Andrew. Very well spotted. So the end result of my hippo walking story was, luckily the hippo decided that we were probably more trouble than we were worth, and he turned tail and ran away from him. And the guest that we were walking with got a very stern talking to, and we ended the walk right there and then. Potentially one of the most dangerous hippos, and this often happens, and we'll start to see it more and more now as we get towards the end of the dry season, particularly after such a dry, what should have been a very wet season has been incredibly dry this year. So what we'll start to see is intense competition between hippos as the pools and the areas that they can actually survive in start to dry up and get smaller and smaller. Especially the young bulls will be quite hard hit. The bigger males will be looking to establish their own areas and to keep the females out of the reach of the younger males. And the fights between hippos can be incredibly aggressive and do an enormous amount of damage to individuals. They have incredibly sharp tusks protruding from their mouths, both from the top and the bottom, and they use them to slash at the animal that they are fighting. And an injured hippo will actually try and move away from the rest of the group and find a place of sanctuary, and that is when they tend to be at their most dangerous. We did even have a case in an area that I worked in the past where we had a very strange wound on a rhino, and it was only later that it was established that she had gone to wallow in a pan that she was very familiar with, and there was an injured hippo there, and he actually went for her and put 2 holes in her face. So a very interesting example of the various types of conflict that you can get between animals, and that was a very unusual example. So what I would like to do is potentially just listen a little bit, just see what these guys were saying just a moment ago. So I was hoping that one of these hippos would give us another good example of the sounds that they make. Unfortunately, it all appears to be quiet now. Nope. So apart from plenty of noise from the various starlings in the area, we don't seem to have much. Here we have the hornbill having a look at us, the red-billed hornbill, and a starling behind him. I really love watching the way that hornbills run. It's very, very entertaining when they're on the ground. And the hornbills actually have quite an unusual foot structure. They have 2 toes in the front part of their foot that are semi-fused, so not completely fused, but just a little bit fused, which gives them a very characteristic banana-shaped track. And that's an adaptation for perching in trees for long periods of time, so it gives them a little bit of extra structural support, but it does also mean that they adopt quite an odd running structure when they're on the ground. So, since most of these hippos seem to be preoccupied with either swimming around very quietly and submerging themselves and cooling off after their sunbathing session, or still relaxing on the dam wall, I'm actually going to send you guys back to Steph to see what he has been up to and whether he has any updates for you guys. And in the meantime, I'm going to head off and see if I can find any tracks of Shadow and her cub Sindile crossing back south into Arethusa.
Oh, welcome back to us here on the far eastern side of Djuma, and we've got two huge waterbuck bulls sharing the game drive with us, and we're going to try and just keep with them. So I can show you these two guys. They're actually quite nice. Huge antelope, pretty much as big as what a wildebeest or what a kudu is, around about the 500-pound mark, the 250-kilogram mark. And one of the most aggressive of all the antelope species that we found out here, them and sable antelope. Now, I'm just going to try and get in front of this waterbuck so that he walks towards us. And then we'll talk a little bit more about waterbuck, because they're actually quite fascinating, to be quite honest. As their name implies, these flies again this afternoon. I thank you all for the comments about using some insect repellent, but I have got insect repellent on. Doesn't seem to be making any difference. Ah no, why are you running? Doesn't feel like being on camera today. Let's see if we can get his friend. Now, what I'm smelling is this quite oily smell. It's quite typical of waterbuck, especially waterbuck bulls. They've got a very oily skin, a lot of sebaceous glands. So go a little bit forward. And there you have typical waterbuck face. Heart-shaped nose, lyre-shaped horns, quite a hairy body.
He's got blood coming out of his nose.
Has he got blood coming out of his nose?
Yeah.
And because I haven't picked up my binoculars yet, I can't see. He has two. He's cut himself on something. Maybe that's why that other waterbuck was running away, that they were having a bit of a boxing match. Now, waterbuck being as aggressive as what they are, they definitely do fight often with one another. And it looks like this one came away with a bloody nose, so to say. Definitely bleeding. How bizarre is that? That's actually quite a nice observation. Very powerful animals. And coming back to their name, what their name implies, the waterbuck, they are known to take to water when they are chased. They're not shy of going into water. Kudu are neither, but waterbuck definitely are less shy of just going into water. And because they live in quite wet habitats, they have this long hair which sheds water very easily. And they have a very oily skin which gets water off of their skin. Also, it repels water, this oily skin. But it has quite a musky smell, and quite often when you're downwind of waterbuck, you can actually smell them. Now, waterbuck are quite common antelope in the Kruger National Park. This is the common waterbuck, although you only find it south of the Zambezi River. North of the Zambezi River, you get the Defasa waterbuck. Looks quite similar. The coat is a little bit browner, and they don't have such a pronounced ring on their bottom, which I'll show you if he turns around. But it looks like he's going to be spending some time just where he is, and you can see from him blinking and moving his ears. He's also being bothered by the flies like I am today. Whew. Driving me a bit crazy, myself and VM. But anyway, that's the way it goes. Incidentally, for those of you who've been watching the show for a while, this is almost the exact spot where we had the Nkuhumas pull down that big buffalo just a week or two ago. Have a look when he comes closer and see if the blood comes out of his nose even heavier when he dips his nose. And I must say, doesn't look like when he dipped his nose that it actually increased the flow. Can you still see him, yeah?
Yeah, well, a bit obstructed.
Let's see if I push the clutch in. There we go. He doesn't look to have any other injuries on him at all. In actual fact, he looks like he's in very good health. Grey Lurie calling behind us. Flies up. They are grass eaters or grazers. Have a look at that ring on his bum there. Annie has contacted us on email, and hi Annie, and you've heard somewhere that waterbuck mothers make the best mothers, and you just wanted to know if I can confirm that or not for you. Annie, I can't confirm that for you, I'm sorry. I don't actually know if waterbuck are any better or any worse than say kudu or zebra would be, or wildebeest for that matter of fact. I haven't seen them being any better. They are quite an aggressive antelope, and so they do put up a bit of a fight when their young are threatened. But nothing more than I've seen from anything else. And then he wanted to know what are the world's worst mothers. Is there such a thing? Potentially amongst the insects, and who just sort of lay eggs and then leave. Maybe we can consider that to be bad motherhood, but I don't actually think that there is such a thing as bad mothers. I think each mom does their own part to make sure that their babies stand the best chance of survival, and once they're finished with that, they carry on with their day. We've got a Franklin giving some alarm calling off to our left hand side. I have no doubt it's probably from a bird of prey or something like that. The reason for that is that the Franklin hasn't shot up into the air like it does when it's a leopard or a lion. And Margaret's gone and asked an interesting question. Thank you, Margaret. You've said if they smell so badly with their sebaceous secretions, would they be an easier target for lion to hunt? That's a very good question, Margaret. I would have to say yes. I would have to say anything that gives your position away by the wind would definitely be a negative point. So yes, I would say absolutely. Nice question there, Margaret. If you can see off to the left hand side of the waterbuck, he's just walking past. We'll go through your screen now. There's the buffalo's horns from the other day. That's what's left a week or two after a buffalo has been killed there. So Ginny and Ocean have commented on what they think might be the cause for the waterbuck's bloody nose. It could be a horn was in the nose. It could be a stick has gone in the nose while they were potentially chasing each other around the bush and he got hooked on a thorn bush. I think that those are both feasible, absolutely. He could have, while they were wrestling, quite easily have caught a smack on the side of the nose with a horn. And he could quite easily, having racing through the bush over here, hooked his face on a thorn bush here. There's some wickedly hooked thorns. I'll actually show you one right now. And absolutely feasible. If VM just goes to the left over here, we've got a buffalo thorn. And you'll see in silhouette, you'll see how sharp and how wickedly hooked these thorns can actually be. And the bush is actually peppered with these trees. This is just one tree with thorns on. There are many trees with thorns on. There are many trees with thorns on. So absolutely. This is a buffalo thorn, Ziziphus mucronata. For those of you with your tree lists going, Ziziphus mucronata. And so absolutely, nice question. I think let's carry on going. Uman has asked if we get tsetse flies, and Uman's question came through on Twitter. And Uman, we don't get tsetse flies just here, even though they did used to occur here. Most of Southern Africa went through a tsetse fly sort of eradication program over the last 40 or 50 years. I have heard that they do occur now in the northern part of the Sabi Sands, that they start, not Sabi Sands of the Kruger National Park, that they're starting to come back the northern part of the Sabi Sand, Kruger National Park. And you know, what do I say about that? Am I a fan of tsetse fly? Absolutely not. They bite like crazy.
Lions went down there.
Yeah, we got some lion tracks on the floor here. Definitely from last night. Am I wanting to eradicate tsetse flies from areas? Absolutely no. The best wilderness areas left in Africa are only there because of the tsetse fly and other pests that occur there. And I'm thankful for their contribution to conservation. So while I don't enjoy being bitten by tsetse fly, I don't think anybody does, I am actually a fan of them. I'm going to turn around over here. We've got some lion tracks on the floor going in the opposite direction. And I do know that last night we've been tracking lions all over the place, and we found that big male lion this morning, and he then crossed the boundary, and there were some tracks of a pride of lion crossing the boundary. But you know what? It's always a good thing to double check all these things. You never know what you drive past over here. What happens between drives, what happens in the middle of the night, who knows actually. The only stories we can deduce are from their footprints. These lion tracks are from last night. And why not go and have a look? Amazing. A week ago you wouldn't have found a waterbuck anywhere close to this buffalo kill because there was just lions everywhere. Now they sort of just saunter through here without a care in the world. Still just keeping my eye on these tracks. Oh, these flies, man. Ocean from Oregon has, and you're a new viewer, Ocean, and welcome to the show, has asked, if an animal smells strong to a human, will it smell just as strong or even stronger to an animal? And I must say yes to that question. It's a good question. I don't think it smells exactly the same, to be honest. I have some lion tracks going up the road. I don't think they smell exactly the same, to be honest. I think animals smell, even humans find some smells different to others. I, for one, find the smell of rotting fish to be absolutely off-putting, while others may find the smell of rotting meat or a bad dustbin to be off-putting. So I don't know what lions smell. I mean, I've seen them sort of eating carcasses that I have to shove fragrant leaves into my mouth and my nose to just get rid of the smell, and it doesn't seem to bother them at all. Well, for them, they're sneezing maggots out of their nose and they're carrying on going as if they didn't have a care in the world. So I suppose it all depends on the animal and the species. They definitely have a better sense of smell, and from a physiological point of view, they've got much bigger nasal cavities, and those nasal cavities are jam-packed with nerves that read smell. So we definitely know that they have a much better smell than what we do. But as to what they find distasteful and what they don't, I'm not too sure. It's actually a beautiful tree. I'll show you. This tree has at some point been hit by lightning, and it's managed to regrow itself, but it's just got such an awesome growth form. I want to share this little tree with you. It's a black monkey thorn acacia. A black monkey thorn acacia, and it's been smashed by lightning, evident by the branch that's broken off about 20-25 feet above the ground. The branch has been broken off, but it's still growing, and it's just got this lovely bonsai feel to it. Definitely not a bonsai tree, and the tree itself is probably a good 30 or 40 feet high, but it just has this nice bonsai feel to it. The black monkey thorn acacia. I stand to be corrected, but the scientific name would be Acacia melanoxylon, and it gets that from the black heartwood that it has. Pitch black heartwood, very dense tree, heavy tree, one of the acacias. So Pamela has asked, what months are our dry season in? And Pamela, firstly, hello. And secondly, the dry season here extends from probably the 1st of May when it starts to around about the 10th of October, I would say. Somewhere around about that time. So 1st of May to about the 10th of October would be our dry months. As you'll notice, you'll see we're driving through quite a yellow light at the moment. That yellow light is as a direct result of smoke from a massive fire that's burning in the Kruger National Park at the moment. And I actually want to see if I can find you some evidence of when last there was a fire through this area. And I may have done it. No. Just shows you how effective these fires are in actually clearing up the bush of any dead wood. There's nothing for me to show you. No coppicing has happened. For those long-term viewers who are familiar with Arethusa, right in the western part of Arethusa, there was a very, very hot fire last year and burnt all the bushes down, and most of them have coppiced. A coppice means that the tree itself was set alight but wasn't killed, and everything above the ground was burnt off. And now you get this shrubby, bushy thing that grows out of the top of the leftover stump. I'm still trying to find something here that I can show you as a remnant of fire. Still trying to follow up on these lion tracks. There's still a variety of different lion tracks on the road here. Now we've got some lion tracks going back up in the other direction. Wow. Let's go back, turn around. I must be honest with you, the last couple of days here at Juma, it's just been absolutely peppered with lions. We've just had lions popping out of everywhere, killing buffalo, doing this, doing that. Here we have another safari vehicle in front of us, one of my colleagues. I've already said hello to them today, so we're not going to be stopping and chatting to them today. We're just going to wave. Bye. David, you just asked the awesome question about why lions don't have birds following them around taking ticks off of their necks. That's actually a good question, because I've never seen an oxpecker on top of a lion. It's probably got something to do with the fact that lions are predators, and most predators don't have anyone taking ticks off of them. And I think, given the chance, a lion might actually snap at a bird and gobble it up. Now, those lion tracks don't come out here, not that I can see, at least anyway. Lots of lions on Juma last night and yesterday. Still actually battling to find you some fire damage. Shows you how well the bush actually recovers. I've literally seen grass sprout within 12 hours of a fire. So Donna's made a comment that I am sure is on everybody's minds at the moment. You know, what about all the animals? What do they do during a fire? Don't we have animals that are burnt, and don't they get scared? Donna, the simple answer to that question is the fact that animals have actually evolved with fire. Fire has been here since, I almost think, the birth of our planet, and is a very, very normal, common thing in the bush. People are negatively affected by fire because we have immovable property, and we have farms, and we have crops, Animals don't have any of these things, and so they don't see fire as being as detrimental to their well-being as what we do. So they generally see fire coming from a long time away and then just move out of the way, move around it. Now we've got lion tracks coming in the opposite direction again here. You know, these lions at Juma today are giving me the runaround. What we do know is there's some lions around Juma, and there are some lions around this area. Excuse me waving like a maniac. Okay. Got flies buzzing around my head over here and driving me crazy, distracting me from everything I must do. So, myself and VM are just busy swatting flies and enjoying the drive down the road looking for this cheetah. And I am sure that Jamie has something to give you an update on. And so, we'll catch you a bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. So very, very exciting news on my side. I'm also being bugged by the flies in the area. But I've just had a report from the Arathusa guides that Shadow's little cub, Sindile, was seen very briefly rushing across from Red Dam and into the drainage line, which is very cool because that's actually where I was heading at the moment. And when he called me, I was already on my way. So the plan is to definitely try and follow up. I may have to go walking a little bit in the drainage line just to see if we can catch a glimpse of him. I have looped around from where he was last seen onto the road just further to the east just to see what he's up to. And what I'm up to at the moment, or what I'm doing at the moment, is just sitting quietly. I'm hoping that maybe some of the squirrels might be taken by surprise with a leopard wandering through and might give his position away. Unfortunately, it all seems to be pretty quiet. So what I'm going to do now is loop back around the dam and hopefully see if I can find the guide who called it in. I'm just going to check around the area, see what we can find. So as far as I can remember, last time we saw Sindile was with Scott sometime last week, and we were in almost exactly the same area. And I am really, really excited because according to the guides, what I heard from this afternoon or earlier this afternoon, Sindile and his mother Shadow were actually further to the north of our position and outside of our boundaries. So I'm very, very excited that we've got this news that he is potentially in an area where we can come and view him. Now all we have to do is find the little scamp. I thought I saw something, but I think it's just my brain playing games with me. It's amazing how when you start to look for a specific animal, you think you see it everywhere. Pace nice and slow, and let's see if we can spot him tucked away in the grass. Better concentrate on the road at the same time. excited this afternoon, and I'm very, very keen to find this mysterious little cub, because it will be the first time I have ever seen him on the Sabi Sands, except for the times I've seen him on the WildEarth safaris. But I'm sure that he's tucked away in here somewhere, and I'm very, very excited. But I think, given the thickness of this block and this area, I am going to have to jump off at some stage and see if I can find him on foot first before I try and bash my way through into the block in this vehicle. So while I'm doing that, I'm hoping I am going to send you back to Steph so that I can really do some serious tracking and find this little spotted cat, because it's going to be very, very difficult from sitting in the vehicle. So guys, I will see you a little bit later. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you never know. Hopefully sitting with Sindile for my very first time. I'll see you a bit later.
Oh, welcome back. Yeah, Jamie is hot on the trail of Sindile, I think. And let's hold thumbs that Jamie finds them, eh? So, we're quickly going to pop into Treehouse Dam. I want to see what's going on over there. Brown-headed parrots that made that squeak over our heads. Now, myself and VM have just been sitting here speculating what's happening to these lion tracks. The lion tracks were called in today, going across our boundary, but with them all zigzagging and going all over the place, I'm not so sure. I don't know. All the tracks are the same age, roughly, and to distinguish one set from coming in from another set that's going out would take a better tracker than I. We'd have to follow the whole sequence and really just work it out, and we don't really have enough time for that on the show. That is generally the job of some trackers. John Boy, hi John Boy, you've asked do I have any information on the whereabouts of the Birmingham boys, and that's an affirmative. This morning they were called in on Torchwood, which lies on our western boundary. They are back into Torchwood, which is sort of like just the property adjacent to Djuma and alongside the Kruger National Park, pretty much where we're seeing them establishing themselves. So I do have some good news, is that they managed to come all the way back from their sort of exploratory venture at Chitwa. Let's see what we've got here on the floor. We've got the tracks of a monitor lizard. Just want to show you in front of the car. And the sign that we're seeing there is the swish mark left from the tail of a monitor lizard. Which monitor lizard it is, the white-throated monitor or the Nile monitor, would be quite tough to say, because we're quite close to Treehouse Dam from where we are standing at the moment, and either could occur here quite easily.
The squirrel.
Yeah. We've got a squirrel busy alarm calling. And I think that's going to warrant me picking up the pace a little bit. Squirrels alarm calling like that are a good sign for us. I'm not going to race too fast because we may miss something that's actually lying here in the grass. I've done it so many times before. I've succumbed to my natural impatience and driven past things that people coming behind me have just picked up with ease. So if you'd excuse me just focusing my attention on the bush around me just for a little bit. Perhaps the better idea would actually be to go and find that squirrel. Ah, we've got another vehicle in front of us who has heard the same thing. Maybe they can give us a bit of an update on what the squirrel is alarm calling for. I've got the squirrel right here chattering away. And if you just excuse me talking for a bit, I'll be with you in a second. Hello, I'm fine and you? Hello folks, are you good? How are you?
I just had a squirrel actually.
I know, there, yeah.
But it was like a hawk.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was like maybe it's a lingo, but no.
Yeah, I know, me and you both. I was just standing over there listening to it.
I'm going to do Barryman, Saka and Yari. They're talking about Tamil Yari coming out of Bamilia, Campulian North.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with that.
Might see you. Hopefully they're trailed by something yellow with claws.
Exactly.
Anyway, we might see you on that side. Maybe.
Right.
Do you know, there was a male lion calling here this morning somewhere in this block here.
Okay.
They were with that hairy-bellied male, and he crossed over here to the south. But there was definitely another male calling in here, different one.
All right.
And he may or may not have crossed. I don't know. We haven't found. So if you're going up there, just keep an eye on.
Okay, I'll keep an eye on the road.
See if another.
Let you know.
Let me know. Otherwise, because I'm going to be here and see if I can pull him out of the bush for you.
Thanks so much, man.
Cool. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Please excuse us facing you to the lovely sunset through the trees over there while we had a chat to Andrew. He had guests on his vehicle that haven't consented to being filmed, and that's why we don't put you on onto them. It would be considered quite rude, I suppose. But just to give you an update, Andrew's in that area. He heard that squirrel giving the alarm call as well, and he says he saw a hawk flying in the drainage line of some sorts that was giving that squirrel cause for alarm. So unfortunately no hairy cats, and he has heard that coming from an adjacent property right on the west, Simbabili, there's a big herd of buffalo. So it is quite far away from here, and although we may end up there a little bit later, I first want to stick around over here. That hairy-bellied male from this morning was being roared at by his colleague, I am sure, and no one has found that male lion yet today. So that male lion is either lying somewhere here in the block, or he's crossed somewhere where we don't know. Andrew is going up our southern boundary. He's going to keep us informed. And that's the plan, basically. So that's what we're going to be doing. Gat in the Netherlands has asked a very awesome question. Hello, Gat. You've asked if a leopard territory, and they are very territorial, if a leopard in its territory has all its territory burnt and all the animals run away because they want to escape the flames, would that leopard go and trespass on another leopard's territory so that it could eat? And the answer to that question is yes. Yes, absolutely. He would do that. He would go to adjacent property to go and eat. But I have seen the bush recover incredibly quickly. Literally 12 hours after fire, you can start to see grass shoots coming through, and animals very quickly return back to their places again. And therefore the leopard will come back to his to their original place as well. So yes, they would. Their home ranges are very fluid. Their boundaries of their home ranges are very fluid. This monitor lizard has walked straight past. Monitor lizard has walked straight past the dam and just carried on going. He's obviously going somewhere with an absolute mission. You can see the trail going all the way up the road. Even on top of the speed bump on top there, you can see where he's gone there. So Ocean wants to know, Ocean from Oregon wants to know, is it true that rhinos stamp on fire? Now Ocean, I must say that, but lions generally don't start moving until the sun is set. And as you can see, the sun is far from setting at the moment. So Joyce from Pennsylvania has just asked what lion coalition covers Torchwood. That's a good question, Joyce. I don't actually know the answer to that question. And I do know, though, that some of our long-term viewers keep a very firm understanding of what lions hold what territories and where in this part of the Sabi Sand. And I'd like to throw that question back at some of our viewers, our long-time viewers who actually have that knowledge. Would you please let us know what coalition is currently the dominant coalition, lion terms, in Torchwood? Ah, what a shy antelope, one of the dwarf antelope. VM just spotted him. Here we go, nice, we're getting him. Ah, very tough to actually get those guys on film. I'm glad that you got to see even just a glimpse of it. That was a common or a grey daker, one of the dwarf antelope that occur here. A daker are a fascinating, truly fascinating family of antelope. They're very primitive in terms of their physiology. I'm actually going to enlist the help of Mr. Jonathan Kingdon, a naturalist from the 1960s, to show you just how diverse the dakers are. I do know that Brent has a big love of dakers. 367. I'm going to page through over here so that you can see how many dakers we have in Africa. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 different species, distinctly different species of daker that occur in Africa. A very, very diverse genus of animals, and very primitive. They've got quite primitive digestive systems. They're not quite ruminants, they're not quite hindgut fermenters. In actual fact, don't have 4 portions to the tummy, they've got 3. But they can digest a very wide range of plants, including some very poisonous plants. And they've also been known to hunt. It's not uncommon to see daker hitting to death with their front hooves mice and lizards and eating them. They even eat eggs, can you believe it? Eggs of francolin and guinea fowl that they find on the floor, they'll eat. So it's an antelope species that, although primitive, is very robust or adaptable, able to adapt to a wide range of conditions. And so the great daker does quite well over here in the Sabi Sands. On that note, we are going to carry on driving. Keep on looking for this male lion. myself and VM, we were driving around all through here today. There's lion tracks literally everywhere, and this afternoon, from a similar time frame last night, we saw that the lions had basically covered the entire western section, or eastern section at least, excuse me, I'm a bit dyslexic today. So Bree on Twitter has asked, what happens to territories? Does it become a free-for-all after fire? And do animals have to re-establish those territories, and can they change, I suppose would be the addition to that. Bree, I'd have to say that no, they don't change. The animals don't run away. It's not that big. They definitely re-establish boundaries. Absolutely. And you find quite a heightened period of activity there. Straight after big rains, straight after fire, you find animals re-establishing territorial boundaries. Thanks, Bree. Now I want to show you something interesting over here. This tree that we've got on our left-hand side has been killed years ago, or pushed down years ago, by elephant. And what's happened is it's been lying on its left-hand side, the flat side. The tree has been lying on that side, and it's been lying on the ground. And what's happened is over the years, the wind has carried lots of grass seeds into this tree, which have got tangled in the relative safety from browsers that want to come in, or grazers that want to come and eat it. I just want to ask VM to pan down onto the grass, which is very evidently much better condition than the grass just next to it. Now, why is this tree being lifted up is the question. What's happened here is a very clever elephant has come along and has realized that better grass lives underneath the tree that he pushed down, and he's tipped the tree over with his trunk and his tusks, and he's fed a little bit on the grass that has occurred underneath this tree. Isn't it just fascinating? A sign. Now, elephants are known as keystone species, and although that is going to take me many months, and I look forward to explaining keystone species, one of the roles of a keystone species is to facilitate or to anchor an ecosystem. And in this particular case, an elephant has pushed a tree down so that he can feed it the top of the leaves. He's then created a tree on the ground, which has allowed other browsers to come and utilize a resource of leaves that they never had access to. As the trees then died, it's created a seed bank. And a seed bank is very important for the diversity and the spread of seeds. A seed bank is a safe zone where plants and seeds can germinate away from mouths that eat them. In this particular case, years later, after those trees and plants, in this case grass, have germinated and spread their seed, an elephant has come along again, lifted up his seed bank and utilized the grass underneath. Real fascinating story, a real nice story about a food chain or a food web, and a keystone species being elephant. Another keystone species that we have out here is hippopotamus, but we are not going to talk about that just yet. I want to show you that. So quite a nice sign that we saw there. That was quite rare to see. It's nice to know. The sun is starting to get lower and lower at the moment. I do want to go and check another dam in the area. For VM and I, the dams so far I've actually been quite surprised at the lack of activity around. And now we got lion tracks going this way again. Oh, I'll tell you, these lions have been walking circles around. This is a female lion, so not the male lion that was roaring. Coming from Treehouse Dam last night. We're going to go and have a look at the dam anyway. these dams haven't been a source of luck for VM and I've been quite surprised. You know, this time of year, watering holes and water points actually form focal points for animal movement. But I think that the frequency and the spread of dams here in the Sabi Sands is actually quite wide, and the animals are spoiled for choice. And sometimes they come to these and sometimes they don't. Easy as that. Oof. I got bothered by another fly here. We pick these things up as we go through the bush. They're attracted by movement. Obviously we look like a big juicy animal on the way past, and they then attach themselves to us until we wave them off and get our next wave of flies. Whew. Drive me mad. Fortunately, with my bald head, I feel them land on my head almost instantly, and my big ears collect them like big scoops. I'm not surprised that we don't have much general game on Djuma at the moment, with all the lions that we've had at the moment. Everything. I would also run away if I was a prey species here. Jimelin has asked an interesting question. If in the dry season all we've got is flies and fires and dust and no rain, how do we do game drives in the wet season when all we have is rain and mud everywhere? And I must say that we do it with difficulty. We still do game drives. I'm just waving at another colleague of ours. We still do game drives in the rain. Obviously with our sensitive equipment that we have, it's difficult to do drives in very heavy rain because we really damage the equipment that we have. But when I was a commercial field guide, we did drives in rain, hard rain, flood rain, drought, fire. We don't switch off the game drives. Nice sunset through the smoke clouds, which is giving it that yellowy tinge. And while VM and I enjoy the sunset further, I think Jamie's got some news for you. And we're going to link back to Jamie.
Welcome back, guys. So while I was wandering around the drainage line looking if I could locate Sindile, Shadow's cub, I actually got the news that he has in fact been found. So he really was on the move from where he was last seen to where he is now. So we can't rush straight there because there are a couple of other vehicles ahead of me in the queue. So for now, we're just going to take it a little bit sedately and wait until the guys give me a shout to let me know that I'm welcome to join that sighting. Very interestingly, while I was walking through the drainage line, I disturbed what looked like 2 spotted eagle owls, and they shot out from the tree that they were sleeping in. And ever since then, the grey go-away birds and the hornbills have been going absolutely insane, shouting and letting the whole world know that these owls are out and about when they really shouldn't be. They seem to have quietened down now. So for now, let's hit the road and start heading a bit closer towards that sighting of Sindile. And I will have my radio turned up nice and loud so I can hear when they want me to join them. It's always very valuable to respect the other guides, especially since in this case they were the ones who found the leopard. So it's very important that the guests that are on their vehicle all get a chance to see whatever animal or whatever sighting they've encountered. And it's also very important that you don't have too many stations at the same animal sighting. Otherwise, you run the risk of stressing out the animal. So there are very, very strict rules about standing by in a queue if a lot of people want to come and see it. So the way that it will work is the first person to find the animal is in charge of that sighting, and he or she will then control who comes and goes from that sighting. And it's usually very respectful, just to make sure that everybody doesn't abuse that, it doesn't spend too long, so that everybody gets a chance. The nice thing for us is that we've got potentially as much time as we need right up until the end of the show to see the leopard, whereas these guys are under a little bit of time pressure, so often they don't spend as long as we might get to, which is why I'm quite happy to sit back and wait for our turn to get to see him. Unfortunately, the only risk with that, of course, is that he crosses a boundary or disappears into some thick bush.
It's a different road.
Oh, brilliant. So we've got a leopard in the road. Thank you, Andrew. We don't need to worry about that sighting because we have our own. I'm not sure about the identity of this little leopard, and I'm sure that there are some people out there who do know. I just want to put my car into low range so that we don't disturb it too much with really high revs, and I can just coast quietly along behind it. I just want to have a quick look with some binos. Awesome, guys, this is so exciting, and it's such a treat for me to work in an area where the leopards are as habituated and relaxed around vehicles as they are here in the Sabi Sands. They've had at least 40 years worth of time and generations worth of leopards that have been habituated to cars moving through their area. I'm just going to let the other Game Drives channels know what I've found. Yeah, standing by. I've actually just got one Ingwe here on the road, Mobile East. I think it's the road from Red Dam. That's just past Parallel North. I'm not sure of its exact name. Yeah, that's affirmative. You're more than welcome. Stay with this leopard. Guys, I'm very, very keen to hear who you think this leopard is. That's very exciting for me. It's my first leopard when working for WildEarth. Now this looks very much to me like a cub and possibly the Sindile who I was looking for. And he has popped out right onto the road exactly where I was walking only a couple of minutes earlier. So he probably watched me walk straight past him. Okay, so I stand corrected. Very tiny female. Most of the viewers are telling me that this is in fact Shadow. So my first time seeing her. So guys, what we've actually had is a situation with converging sightings. And I think she's just going up there to join her cub. Actually hear him calling to her. Here he comes.
Down there will be a good place.
Sorry guys, just repositioning. And I'm also going to move a little bit further forward just to stay out of the way of the other vehicles who are here with us. Absolutely beautiful sign of affection there between mother and son. I'm going to move forward slightly. Potentially catch them in that gap. Getting a little bit too playful there. Guys, what a treat this is for me. My first time seeing Shadow and Sindile, and I'm so happy to be able to share it with all of you. It's very, very exciting. As I was explaining to you guys a little bit earlier, there is quite a strict control system in terms of sightings. But what's happened here has been interesting because my sighting of Shadow converged with their sighting of Sindile. So as far as I could tell, there are only 3 of us here at the moment, so we're not breaking any rules. But I do think that they were a little bit surprised to see me. Guys, now we can't have too many vehicles crashing through the bush after these leopards, so I'm going to loop around and see if I can catch them on the other side of this block and leave it to these guys to follow them through. I don't think that all 3 of us trying to push through after leopards, and none of us are going to get a very good view. I think they've stopped in here. No, they're still moving through the block. So I have a comment from Linda who suggests that Shadow may be leading Sindile to a kill, since this is the only time in her observation that Shadow really seeks Sindile out. And that is more than possible. Leopard mothers do hide their cubs away for extended periods of time until they manage to kill something, and then they will go back and fetch their cub and then take the cub to the kill. I'm going to loop around the block and just catch up with him on the cut line. So I'm going to drive a little bit faster just to get to see them, but still really, really awesome sighting. I'm so excited that we got to see them for the first time, or at least my first time today. I was really holding thumbs, so it appears to have paid off. Sorry, Andrew, we're gonna hold on just as we loop around. On a little bit of memory from coming down this road to play or to watch the boys play touch rugby early last week, so I know roughly where the roads go. The other vehicle over there. I can just see the leopards in front of the other vehicle there. So one tail just disappearing that side. I definitely saw a second coming through. unfortunately, I think that vehicle just moved slightly in front of our view. So guys, just quickly while I'm repositioning and find a nice spot for you guys to see these leopards, I'm going to send you back to Steph just for a minute or two, and I will be back with you. I will be back with you as soon as possible so that we can get a nice view of these leopards and hopefully make some plans with these guides to follow up.
Well, welcome back everybody to a beautiful sunset. VM and I decided that we'd show it to you as the sun sets on VM's birthday. We just got some lovely colors here. We've got the green of the algae, we've got the sun, red and purple behind those smoke clouds. The bush starting to go into greys and browns. Just such a lovely sunset to share with you. While I hear you've been visiting with Sindile and her cub, we are jealous. But also very glad that you get to see her. I think I was mentioning it this morning to everybody, how in our busy lives we don't really take enough time to visit and watch the sunset and the sunrise. And this morning today we've been privileged to have both. We've been privileged to sit and appreciate both the sunrise and the sunset and the change that it brings. Are we seeing this pan that's in front of us now? Treehouse pan is almost finished. I don't think that there's much more than a week or two of water left at most. But then that is exactly what must happen. Look at that sun going down. So Gert in the Netherlands has actually pitched an interesting answer. Well, asked a good question. Will the closing down of the watering holes in the Kruger National Park force more elephant into the private reserves that actually pump their watering holes? And I can only imagine that that answer would be yes, Gert. Now, I hear that the leopard is running away. You need to get there as quickly as possible. Over to Jamie. Enjoy.
Welcome back, guys, and as luck would have it, they have crossed over the boundary of Arethusa but into Djuma side. So we have these guys all to ourselves. I'm not entirely sure where the second one has vanished to. It is quite a thick block, but I'm going to try and stay with this one as long as possible. So something appears to be happening. Very, very alert. If they are hunting, I have to be very careful about the way that I push through to see them, because I really, really do not want to disturb or interrupt or in any way compromise their hunt if this is what they're doing. So we've had several comments from Kay, Smiles for Rafe, and Natasha mentioning that Sindile looks like he's grown a great deal. He's almost reached the same size as his mother's shadow. And I can't really comment too much on that. This is the first time I've ever seen him, but I will take you guys at your word. And he is looking very big. I understand that he's nearly close to a year old now from what I can see. So he looks to me to be roughly between 10 months to 12 months old. And he's still got quite a long time before he is fully independent from his mother. Some leopard cubs take a little bit longer than others. Usually the males become independent a little bit sooner, a little bit faster than the female cubs might. But he's probably at least got 6 months still being dependent, or at least associating with his mom. And that very much looks like stalking posture to me. And potentially waiting to see whatever is happening in the front there. Now just cleaning himself off. Since he has relaxed like that, I'm going to try and get a little bit closer just to see what he's up to. And I'm going to try and dodge all of the little baby leopards that are here. Here we go. In between, well, not quite, I don't want to get too in between two leopards. I do not want to put my car right between them just because I don't think that's very polite. So it is very thick in this block and it is a bit tricky maneuvering around. I still would like to be able to see at least one of them clearly. I'm going to just shift around, try and sneak in from a different angle so that I'm not cutting them off from each other. I don't think that they would be too concerned by it. These guys are incredibly habituated and very used to cars coming and going and stopping to have a look at them. But I just want to do things in a more appropriate manner. we just listen very carefully, you might hear her calling to him. Really beautiful signs of affection between mother and cub. Stay with them for now because I am so excited to have seen this pair for the first time. I'm gonna try and take the easiest route, but unfortunately in this block there isn't really an easy route. They move faster than I thought. Oh yeah. Thank you, Andrew.
No problemos.
Little bit of playfulness between mother and son. Okay. Try and keep up with them for as long as possible. So they are actually slowly moving back towards the road, which would be hugely helpful. I'm going to just see if I can try and sneak ahead of them. I'm going to make my way back into the road because I feel like if I off-road too much further, I'm actually going to just keep pushing.
Trees are blocking me.
absolutely perfect. Little bit of scent marking there on the tree. So guys, we've got the most perfect picture of these two on a tree. Please take plenty of screenshots of this beautiful image and feel free to share them with us. You can share them at #SafariLive on Twitter. You can also email them through to us at questions@wildearth.tv. Really stunning visuals. Leopards in trees, the iconic image of a leopard. They are such incredibly agile climbers. Let's try and stay with them. They are moving towards the road. I'm very much hoping that we escape from this without a flat tire, but I'm also somewhat doubtful. How are we doing on that side? We're good. Okay, well, we shall see how long that lasts. I'm sure we're gonna have a flat tire after that, but we can hold thumbs, you never know. Yeah, stations, if anyone's still interested, these two Ingwe are now back onto the cut line. Mobile East. Yeah, apologies, station mobile south towards these various signposts. Yeah, copy that. You're more than welcome. They're just cutting into this block now. I'll keep visual. Yeah, they're now mobile southwest into the block off the cut line. Sorry guys, just keeping everybody updated. I think she is going to come back onto the road. They are playing with each other. They don't seem to be too determined, so they haven't picked a specific direction and are walking consistently in it. They're just crisscrossing around. I just want to double check exactly where we are just so that I can let the other vehicles know. I'll leave you with that beautiful image. Yeah, standing by. They're actually crossing backwards and forwards onto Triple M. The Mufuzzi is now mobile south. We're still with the Bantuan here. So it looks as though Shadow is on the move now. She is... There goes Shadow off down the road. Just play with a little blade of grass. Let me shift slightly. So I'm fairly certain that Shadow is actually hunting at this point. She seems to be crisscrossing through fairly aimlessly, and she's just been very alert and ducked into the block off to my right. But I think we're going to try and stay with Sindile here. He's potentially going to follow his mom. Just giving himself a little bit of extra height, just so he could try and see where his mother's gone. I can actually hear him calling for his mom, just trying to figure out which way she's gone. He was too busy playing with the grass to actually notice. He's just listening intently to another game drive vehicle approaching. I'm still marveling at the fact that he popped out onto the road almost exactly where I did when I heard that they'd found a leopard already, or at least shadow popped out onto the road. Quite incredible. I did not see anything. And I'm sure a lot of you have noticed when there is a leopard in the grass, if you've ever seen it, it almost disappears completely. So much so that if somebody didn't point it out, you would not even know it was there. He's still looking around. You can see he's calling, but very, very softly for his mother. I don't think you guys will be able to hear it. His truly beautiful light-colored eyes that he has, highlighted underneath each one by a nice light stripe, and that's to help with his night vision. So when the moonlight or whatever other ambient light he can pick up at night is shining onto it, it reflects off that light patch underneath his eyes, and then the backs of the ears that accentuate all of his visual cues that he will make throughout his life. He's still looking for his mum, looking off in the direction that he last saw her. And I think she might have just decided she was not in the mood to deal with his playfulness. She wanted to go and hunt. So she took the opportunity while he was distracted with the grass to just disappear off. So a very good question from Linda as to why Sindile seems to be a little bit confused. And Linda wants to know why he couldn't just follow her scent. And it is true that he would know her scent very, very well. He'd be very bonded to it. However, I think the fact that this is a main cut line with plenty of vehicle traffic may well have interfered with that particular sense of smell. It's also a little bit of a light breeze, which might be blowing her smell away more so than normal. And it might also just be his leopard cub instinct to stay put. So he's kind of tossing up between following on behind her and staying in hiding when waiting for her to come and fetch him. And I think he's gone with the option of just lying down and waiting for Mum to come and find him. Absolutely spectacular image in this wonderful setting sunlight. I will shift forward slightly for you guys just so we can get a better angle, but there is another car, so you guys will get the clicking of their cameras as well as the sounds of the bush. So I know that last time Scott found Shadow and Sindile, or at least one of them fairly... Oh, Shadow's just popped out onto the road, I think. Let's just double check that. She just crossed in front of me. There's now a vehicle on the way. And yes, there she is. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's Shadow just crossed in front. She did walk down that way and then into the block there. Sorry, just chatting to the other guides. So Shadow is crisscrossing a great deal. So I think that potentially she is hunting. I think she's just exploring the area and seeing what's out and about. And she doesn't want to do that with a young and inexperienced cub following her around, potentially messing up any hunting attempts that she might make. So I can't actually see her now. I think she might have crossed through into the block on the other side of the road. We do have a couple of vehicles coming through. So if a third one does come to approach, then it's just good manners for me to leave the sighting and give the other guys a chance. We have had a really, really wonderful time with them. But for now, we're fine. There's just 3 of us here, but I will let you guys know if we do have to move out of the sighting. I'm just going to shift slightly so that we've got an even better view just as soon as this vehicle has stopped. Bit bright. So guys, I hear that you took my request pretty seriously and that you're all sharing some of the screenshots from the amazing sighting that we've had this afternoon. Thank you very, very much, guys. I'm really keen on looking at those and having a look through, especially since I've been so busy following these guys and keeping up with them that I haven't had any opportunities to take pictures for myself. So I'd love to have a look through them later. And I do have some very special plans for the screenshots that you guys do take. I'm going to get you guys to help me build up a database of all of the different animals. But before I do tell you too much about that, I will actually save that for the fireside chat tomorrow evening. So if you guys want to hear more about that, then tune in tomorrow evening and we can chat a little bit about the plans that I have and some of VM's plans as well. Here he is, beautiful profile, always alert. And you'll find the backs having black ears highlighted by those black dark colors. It's very common in a lot of different species of animals, from lions to impala, and most of it is to do with visual cues, so visual communication. These animals can't talk to each other in a way that we necessarily understand, but they do definitely communicate in one way or another. and most important in the body language repertoire, so in the body language vocabulary, is the movement of the ears and the movement of the tail. And I'm sure a lot of you guys know that from the swishing tail of a cat that is either playful or angry, or a dog's ears that are flattened backwards against his skull. So the ears communicate a great deal, which is why it makes sense for nature to have highlighted them in that dark color that stands out. So, been a very special day for me today. My first cheetah on Sabi Sands this morning, and my first leopards this afternoon. Very, very exciting day.
Would be really nice if we could get the sunset behind him, but he's not very nice. Wow, you know.
And the beautiful colors of the sunset, also brought out by that fire that is to the west of us. It's bringing in some haziness to the area. So leopards are one of the most extraordinary animals that there are out in this area. Their power and agility is simply staggering when you really think about it. If you can imagine a young female leopard somewhere in the region of 45 to 50 kilograms, so 100 to maybe 110 pounds, able to drag an impala that is roughly her weight, maybe potentially even heavier, up a tree using only her claws and holding it in her mouth, you get something of an idea of how incredibly powerful these animals can really be. And they can be unbelievably dangerous if cornered or encountered, but for the most part, they just tend to avoid all contact and all conflict rather than risk any kind of confrontation. And they've got that perfect camouflage that helps them to do that. All they really have to do is move away a couple of meters and just crouch down, and they disappear almost completely into the bush. So, interesting observation from Mavis, who is sort of questioning the fact that leopards don't hang around too much. Ooh. Something in the sky that gave him a fright there. I'm not sure exactly what it was. It wasn't to do with anything with the vehicles or the people, because he actually looked upwards before he dashed off. I'm just going to move backwards slightly, see if we can get another visual of him. But I think, guys, shortly it might be time to... There he is. that the other vehicles can see him as well. But I'm going to wait until these guys have found their position, just so that we don't have too many cars bombarding him with their engines on at the same time. So sorry, to get back to Mavis's observation. So Mavis was wondering why it is that leopards don't... And I think we might be saying goodbye to Sindile, because if he does disappear off into this block, I'm going to give the other guides a chance to actually see him for a little bit longer. We have seen plenty of him, and 3 of us crashing around in this block is not going to make life very easy. He's still just visible between the sticks there, but he is going to move off. So I'm going to attempt for a 3rd time to try and answer Mavis's observation. And Mavis's observation was that she was surprised that leopards don't spend more time around the water holes, especially in this dry season when the prey is coming there automatically, or at least is forced to come to that area. Well, Mavis, it's an interesting observation, but the one animal that is spending quite a lot of time around the water holes, as we have seen fairly recently, is the lions. So although it might seem like a good idea for a leopard, and they probably do spend more time around the water holes than not, they also want to stay avoiding the lions as much as possible. It's also the same reason that you don't get you get an increased concentration of prey items around the water hole, but not all of them around. So I think the leopards probably stay away, mainly to stay out of conflict with the lions. They're also very well adapted to hunting in all kinds of different environments. So, Granny, Billy Joe from Florida, welcome to the Sunset Safari. I'm so glad we could share that awesome sighting with you. So first of all, she would like to compliment Andrew on his fantastic camera work, and I second that. There were some really awesome shots in that. And secondly, what was the second point? Oh, would like to guess, just had a brain freeze for a moment, has asked me whether I could put a rough estimate in terms of height and weight of Sindile. So roughly the height would be, I would say, not very tall at all, maybe around 50 to 60 centimeters, which I cannot convert into inches. I'm not entirely sure. My conversion rates into imperial are not fantastically accurate. And in terms of weight, he won't weigh very much at the moment, probably in the region of at most 30 kilograms, but I would say potentially even less. I have a dog that is roughly the same size, and she weighs at the moment about 25 kilograms, but she's potentially much less muscly than he is. So we're talking in that sort of region. So 25 kilograms is about just over 50 pounds. If my conversions are on spot, that's something I might have to brush up on. All right. Guys, he has moved off into this block, and I don't think we're going to be able to follow. Just before I leave, I'll deal with a quick question from Ocean, Oregon. Welcome to the Sunrise Safari. I really hope that you enjoyed that amazing time that we had with those leopards. And they would like to know if leopards can sleep in trees. And the answer is yes, they can and do very regularly. They do favor certain types of trees. So that beautiful tree that Andrew had in our wide shot earlier with the silhouette of Sindile, so that fantastic, I think it's a marula tree, it could be a false marula tree, it's a little bit dark to see, but they tend to favor nice big trees with thick branches and no thorns, and that is often where you will find them. That doesn't mean that they can't climb other trees, it just means that they favor certain types, and that of course makes total sense. If you're going to go climbing up and you know you're safe up there, you'd rather avoid thick foliage and scratchy thorns. So guys, I would say that is it for our Sindile and shadow sighting. In fact, even the other vehicle has decided that following him into the block might be a little bit more tricky than they intend to take on. And I fully understand why. Following a leopard in the dark in what is essentially a combination of monkey thorn and zebra wood is fairly difficult. So they won't be following up either. But it has been an incredibly exciting afternoon for me. Not only did I get to explore a totally new area and not really get that lost, or at least not as lost as I expected to be at any point, but I got to see Shadow and Sindile for the first time ever, or at least my first time. And it's really awesome that I got to share that entire experience with all of you guys. I'm really, really excited. It has been... I woke up this morning with a feeling that it was going to be a very, very good day. And indeed, that has proved to be true. From the Matimba male this morning and the cheetah, right down to seeing that gorgeous Shadow, who is so incredibly graceful, and her playful little cub, Sindile. So I think that is quite a good afternoon. We've done fairly well, and it's all another hard day in Africa. So for now, I am going to enjoy this incredible sunset, and I'm going to send you guys back to Steph. But thank you to everyone at FC, to Tara and to Kirsty and to Andrew for all his fantastic camera work. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning at the Sunrise Safari.
I like that, like triangle. Well, I hear you've been having a fantastic time with Sindile on top of a termite mound with Mom. How awesome is that? What a fantastic day. We really have had an awesome day today, jam-packed with lion, leopard. We haven't seen any elephant or any buffalo today, I don't think, but awesome sightings nonetheless. Some good birds this morning, some bizarre things this afternoon, some interesting chats along the way. And have a look at the sky just to close off. I mean, isn't that the most amazing sighting, where we have the moon, Mars, and Venus all together in that triangle? With the smoke and the red sky and everything, it just really is very, very pretty. No other star, well, one or two other stars out right now, but those are definitely the most prominent, and definitely something that I haven't seen in... I actually don't remember when the last time I saw something like that, to be quite honest. Really, really beautiful. Myself and VM have really had a nice day today. A very relaxed day, to be quite honest. Jamie seems to have found everything around us today, and good for her. I think she's definitely had the luck with it today. And what are we going to do tomorrow? That's a good question. There's one of those things where you don't really know what you're going to do tomorrow. We've got no static sightings, which means that we don't have a predetermined plan to go out somewhere tomorrow. We're just going to be following our noses, basically, similar to what we did today. Got that brilliant smoke cloud that's still drifting over the horizon from that fire in the Kruger National Park. Coloring the sky a brown, orangey color, quite weird. And then moving over into that greeny blue color just before you get that moon, Mars, and Venus triangle. And as you can see from the moon, a little bit bigger than what it was yesterday. So we have got a waxing moon. Tomorrow night, that moon will rise 45 minutes later than it did today, and it won't be in the same position as it is now. So this is a once off. You're not going to see the moon in this position with that fancy, very, very unique and, to be quite honest, astounding feature in the sky. I'm just really enjoying the view. From myself, Stefan, and VM, from Jamie and Andrew, And from Tara and Final Control, we really wish you a very pleasant day wherever you are. We're going to have a good night, and we're going to be ready to go tomorrow. I bid you good night, wish you a good day, and see you soon.